Hi, Brian here again with you for episode five of lists from my living room. I never figured I'd get past one. I'm just keep plugging away at it. It's not like everybody's watching, let me tell you, but I appreciate those people who are watching. Hopefully sometime people will discover it. I'm not the greatest host, I'll tell you that. I've noticed that as I'm doing these, and certainly am not much to look at, but I have a lot of passion for music in general and rock music and the bands that I like, and so hopefully that comes through and makes up for some of my lack of on-screen presence. I know I hum and I haw and I start to think and I get distracted. That's the way I am. So, episode 5, today we're going to be doing a band that I really have loved since they first appeared, and that is Motley Crue. People want to lump them in as that dreaded hair metal moniker, something I've always hated. I think it denigrates what's really good music for a lot of bands. I realize it's more about the look in that era than the music for some people. I think we've kind of embraced it as metal fans, that it's just the way it is and that's the way people are going to refer to it. But so Motley Crue has 9 studio albums. My usual caveat: no live albums, no greatest hits. Even those albums where they might have included some new cuts, it's just going to be studio albums. And my lists are more about what I enjoy most. It could be for a lot of different reasons. I say it could be sentimentality. It could be just something on a certain album has just always stuck with me. That it's all about personal taste. I don't try to suggest that what I have at the top of my list is what might be their best album. It's just the best album to me, and there's always room for debate. So, without any further delay, why don't we just jump into it? I keep promising at the beginning of these I'm going to try to make it shorter. We'll see if I can do it this time. There's only 9 albums, so let's go. Coming in at number 9, from 1994, probably would be at the bottom of a lot of people's lists. It's certainly at the bottom of mine. That is the self-titled album, Motley Crue. This was the album that they did with John Corabi after Vince Neil left the band, or whether he left the band, whether he was told to leave the band, who knows? There's a lot of different versions of it. In my opinion, John Corabi has, over the years, become like the Ted McGinley of hard rock and metal, where he just seems to always be stepping into a band where a key member has left. Maybe that's just my opinion of it. It just seems like every time I turn around, Corabi's in a new band. This is not... He's not horrible on this, but I think Motley Crue is a band that really thrived on having those 4 individual members, the 4 personalities. They had the look, they had the sound, and Corabi just does not fit in with that sound. There's a few decent songs on here. I'm not going to say they all stink. I mean, none of them really stink, but Hooligan's Holiday, the single, was pretty good, and Poison Apples, Uncle Jack. It's just not Motley Crue as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't sound like them all the way through. It's got a hard edge, but they really pushed, the rest of the band pushed this angle that the band was better without Vince, but I think once we heard this, we realized that it was not quite. So that comes in last at number 9. Number 8, from 2000. Not a bad album, but one that I don't play a lot. I don't really think I ever got too much into it. That was New Tattoo. Trying to get the glare off of that. There we go. Tommy Lee was not in the band at this point. Randy Castillo played drums. And Tommy has a style of drumming that is just not there on this. Randy Castillo's a good drummer. So he was a good drummer. But it just misses kind of Tommy's feel. There's some decent songs on here. New Tattoo, even though it's sort of... I think it's a pretty good song. They do a cover of White Punks on Dope. First Band of the Moon, I'm not a big fan of that song. I think it's kind of silly. Drag Strip Superstar, pretty good song. But it misses the feel of the four guys again. But a good effort. Number 7. I like this album. I haven't listened to it nearly as often as I've listened to some others. But I do like a lot of this. 2008, Saints of Los Angeles. This would be the last solo album they've done. 2008, so it's been 12 years already. They went through that whole business of we're never going to perform again, we're going to sign the contracts, and of course recently they've decided to rip up the contracts. We're going to go out and we're going to go on a stadium tour, which has been postponed, of course, by the worldwide pandemic thing we got going on. This is good. The Saints of Los Angeles, the title song is good. I like the Saint of Love song. Just another Psycho. Very hard-edged, very... what's a term I'm trying to think? Maybe clunky, chunky. It's got a lot of heaviness to it. But it doesn't really capture the spirit of the heyday of the band. I think it's pretty good. I don't think that it is up there in the top half of their discography. I'd probably give it, maybe a 7 out of 10. 6, 7 out of 10. It's alright. So these next two I could have gone one way or the other on. Depending on the day, I think I could have gone one way or the other. I decided for the list today that I was just going to go with this one next at number 6 from 1997. Generation Swine. Look at all these. Every time I look at this album cover, it makes me think of the movie Point Break, where they wear all the president masks. Even though they're just pig masks, but it just always makes me think of that. Just an aside there. I like this a lot. I know a lot of Motley Crue fans didn't like this. I liked it a ton. I thought that Afraid, the first single, was just a killer song. Find Myself was good. I actually got to turn this upside down because the way this thing is designed, it's upside down. It's got a remake of Shout at the Devil on it, which isn't necessary. Brandon, touching song. But there's a lot of good stuff. Glitter. There's a lot of good songs on this. I really enjoyed it. I played it a lot when it first came out. I haven't played it as much, maybe in the last decade, but it's certainly one that I can throw on at any time and enjoy. Good album, Generation Swine. I think it's underrated. I think it's highly underrated as far as Motley Crue albums go. I could have swapped it, as I said, with this one. And this one, I love it, but I don't love it. I'll explain. Theater of Pain. This one from 1985. This was the follow-up to Shout at the Devil. And the band changed sound a lot between those two albums. There's the back cover. You can see they went from the leather and the studs and kind of the harder edged look, and they went more into the glam look, which I think kind of what began the hair metal connotations that people started throwing at it. Bands seem to be more interested in looking pretty than looking metal. As far as the music, I find it to be a little bit mellow. I find it not to be as hard-edged as I liked in my Motley Crue. There are good songs. You know, you've got Smoking in the Boys' Room, the cover of the Brownsville Station song. The ballad Home Sweet Home, which people love. I like it, but it's a little mellow, dramatic. Save Our Souls, good song. Keep Your Eye on the Money. It's got good songs. Like a lot of albums that I talk about from this era, it really sounds dated. I find it sounds very dated now. It sounds very 80s. Not that there's anything wrong with sounding 80s, but it just kind of sounds like that era where bands who were really heavy at the beginning of the 80s or in the 70s all of a sudden softened their sounds a little bit. And I think that was because bands were starting to get, or hard rock metal bands were starting to get played on the radio. They were starting to get played on MTV and Much Music here in Canada. And they were looking for more and more commercial acceptance. But it's certainly not a bad album. And I could interchange it with Generation Swine. That was number 5. An album that I think a lot of people might have higher. I'm just going to adjust this 1 second because I'm finding I'm getting a lot of headroom on there. Sorry, folks. Dr. Feelgood, 1989. I think a lot of fans would put this higher on the list. And I certainly love this album. It's got great songs, pretty cool album cover. Dr. Feelgood, huge hit. Kickstart My Heart was a huge hit. Don't Go Away Mad, Just Go Away. There's tons and tons of hit songs on this. Same Old Situation's a good song. There's a lot of good songs on this. But I think the albums ahead of it, I just love so much that I could only put this as high as number 4. But it doesn't take away from the quality of this. Enjoyable from beginning to end. I don't know if I showed the back. Great album. Going all the way back. The original album from 1981 with that fantastic album cover. I love this cover. Um, Nothing like having Vince Neil's crotch and right next to you. Right. Not that I would know. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But Too Fast for Love. Originally, this was album that they put out on their own through their own record company. Once it picked up steam, it then got picked up, by the bigger record companies and put out. This one suffers only from production value. It's got really good songs, a lot of songs that they still play. I mean, I'll just read them. Side 1, Live Wire, Public Enemy #1, Take Me to the Top, Merry-Go-Round, Piece of Your Action, all good. Starry Eyes is cool, Stick to Your Guns, Come On and Dance is just probably one of the weaker ones on there. Too Fast for Love and On With the Show. All good songs, with the exception of one that I kind of don't. If you got the CD version of this, which I have somewhere in the collection. My collection stretches, by the way, not that anybody cares, but along this wall and along that wall and then boxes, and I know you see this here, but like I said, it's on the production side, it's a little bit thin, it's a little bit weaker than others. There's the playing, their playing isn't quite as developed as it would become. But in terms of just raw rock music and energy, this is a great, great album. Great debut. Comes in at number 3. Number 2, from 1987, Girls, Girls, Girls. This was the one that came out after Theater of Pain. I found that it was a real return to heavier, grittier rock and metal sound. It's got, again, I'll just read them. Wild Side, fantastic song. Girls, 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 Dancing on Glass. Bad Boy Boogie. Nona is, that's on side 2, 5 Years Dead, All in the Name of, Something for Nothing, You're All I Need, pretty good song, ballad, and then a cover, Jailhouse Rock. But there's the back. Pretty cool cover, album cover. I liked the way that this got back to the heavier edge of the first 2 albums and didn't rely so much on, radio friendly and video friendly melodies. It had videos with the prerequisite girls and stuff in them, but played a lot. Highly recommend it. That brings us down to number 1. And I had promised I'd try to keep this a little shorter, so I think I'm doing okay. If you're watching, you know what it is. Shout at the Devil. It's one from 1983. Cool album cover. They ended up changing this album cover shortly after. Because of complaints, because the pentagram, you're trying to corrupt our children, you're gonna make them all Satan worshippers. There they are in the back. Cool look. I loved this look when I was a teenager of, I don't know, how old was I? 14, 15, I forget now, but that was cool to me when I was inside. Great shots, looking cool. There's nothing but good songs on this. Every one of them. We can throw in the beginning out because that's just a spoken word thing introduced. I forget who that was. That was, sorry, indulge me for a second. I always know his name and then I forget it. That doesn't matter. But you look at the song, Shout at the Devil, Looks That Kill, Bastard, Knock 'em Dead Kid, Danger, Too Young to Fall in Love, Helter Skelter, the Beatles song, Red Hot. Then you got 10 Seconds to Love, God Bless the Children of the Beast. Maybe I was wrong. That's just sort of a so-so thing. I think it's not really a song so much as anyway. 10 out of 10 on this. I have to say this album I thought was really one of the ones that kicked off that wave of LA metal into the mainstream. This one along with maybe Metal Health from Quiet Riot really started that whole, not the scene, but started all those bands. And next thing you knew, every band from LA was being signed and put on album and put on video, and it was a great time. It was a great time for music if you love that kind of thing like I did. Anyway, number 1 from Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil. So I'm going to actually bring this one in a reasonable amount of time. I'll be back in another couple of weeks, hopefully, with whatever band I decide to do next. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you'll watch my other ones and you'll watch the next ones. What can you do? So until next time, thanks for watching. Keep rocking.